when you really disappear, without fighting, without discussing, without explaining anything, something changes on her side. It's not anger, it's not indifference. It's that silent discomfort that starts small but grows. She notices the absence, even when pretending she doesn't. She feels the lack, even when saying everything is fine. And the most curious thing is that silence makes more noise than any message. You don't chase after her. You don't try to explain yourself. And that touches something she didn't expect to feel. In this video, I'm going to reveal what a woman really does when you stop talking to her. Attitudes that almost no one notices. But that say much more than words. And stay until the end, because the last attitude will surprise you. From this moment on, you're going to hear what nobody has the courage to say. The truths that remain hidden behind ready-made speeches and that most people prefer to pretend they don't see. So subscribe to the channel right now, turn on notifications, leave a like and comment from which city you're watching from, because I want to know where you're tuning in from. Many women fear that a channel like ours reaches 100,000 subscribers because they know that the more men wake up, the less manipulation works. It's no good awakening if everyone around you keeps sleeping. So, subscribe to the channel now to grow our community of lucid and prepared men. It's completely free. Now, without beating around the bush, let's get to what really matters. First attitude. She finds the silence strange. When you stop talking to her, that silence which before could have seemed natural now becomes disturbing and almost unbearable. The absence of messages, that empty space in the conversation that used to be filled by constant daily exchanges, starts to weigh like a stone on her chest. She can't ignore this change because she was deeply accustomed to the routine between you two, to that established pattern of exchanging messages, to those moments of connection that repeat every day, and suddenly that entire rhythm disappears without warning. Silence is not just the lack of words, it's the lack of confirmation that you still think of her, that you still care, that she still holds a relevant place in your life. She feels it in the absence of those notifications that made her heart race, in that phone buzz that no longer comes for her, in that pleasant anxiety of waiting for your response. It's as if the world had become quieter, grayer, emptier, and she can't adjust to this new reality that was imposed on her. This strangely familiar silence frightens her because it shows that things can change quickly, that the security she felt by your side was more fragile than she imagined. Her mind begins to work obsessively, trying to fill this void with increasingly creative and often catastrophic hypotheses. She relives previous conversations repeatedly, goes through each moment searching for an explanation, for something that justifies this abrupt and painful change. The silence makes her question absolutely everything in your relationship. Did she do something wrong? Did you get tired of her? Did she talk too much or too little? Did her presence start to bother you? Silence is a quiet enemy because she can't face it directly. There are no words to discuss. There's no discussion that can resolve this emptiness. There's no space for explanations. It simply remains there, heavy and comfortable at the same time, because at least there's a latent hope that you might break this silence at any moment. She remains in this suspended state, between hope and despair, waiting for that message that might never come, but that she continues imagining will arrive. Eventually, she gets used to this new silence, but never completely, never truly. It stays there like an unwanted guest in her mind, like a constant reminder that things have changed and might never go back to the way they were. She developed a sharp sensitivity to detect any change in this established pattern of silence. If you speak to her again, she will notice immediately because the silence left a deep and indelible mark on her perception. It's as if the silence became its own language between you two, speaking louder and more stridently than any word could speak. Silence becomes a constant presence, almost tangible, that she carries with her every moment of her day, reminding her that you chose to step away, that you chose not to speak to her anymore, and this choice hurts more than any words of rejection could hurt. Second attitude, she reviews messages to see if she said something wrong. She goes back to those old conversations like someone searching for evidence at a crime scene, desperate to find the clue that explains everything. Each word she said gains new dimension and new weight when reread in the light of this possible rejection and abandonment. She obsessively asks herself if that joke was too bold, if that comment seemed arrogant or pretentious, if that compliment sounded false or too exaggerated, if that confession was too sincere and frightening. The obsessive and repetitive rereading of messages becomes a desperate form of control, as if she could magically turn back time and correct everything that was said, all the words that escaped her fingers. She minutely analyzed the tone of each message, the amount of emojis she used, if she was too enthusiastic and desperate or too cold and disinterested, if she showed too much interest or insufficient interest. Each response of hers is placed under an imaginary microscope, dissected in search of flaws, errors, something that could have scared you or made you step away. She finds problems in places where probably no problems exist, creating narratives of guilt that suffocate her. This process of review becomes almost a maniacal ritual that she performs several times a day, always hoping to find that specific message, that exact moment when she made the fatal mistake that destroyed everything. She rereads entire conversations at midnight, when insecurity is strongest and emotions are amplified, looking for clues that might not exist. Every sentence she wrote is analyzed from multiple angles. Did it seem too needy? Did it seem too independent? Did it seem like she didn't care enough? Did it seem like she was too desperate to please? The ambiguity of each text makes the analysis even more torturous, because the same sentence can be interpreted in 100 different ways, and she finds herself trapped in an infinite cycle of reinterpretation. She starts to doubt her ability to communicate, her ability to be understood, and this doubt corrodes her self-esteem day after day. The weight of this constant analysis drains her emotionally, leaving her exhausted and depressed, because no matter how many times she rereads, she never finds the definitive answer she's looking for. Over time, she develops a strange relationship with these old messages. They become simultaneously a source of comfort and emotional torture. She rereads them not just to find guilt, but also to relive the moments when you still spoke to her, when you two still connected in meaningful ways. Each message becomes a phantom from the past, a ghost of what was and might never be again. She memorizes entire sentences that you wrote to her, analyses every comma and exclamation mark looking for clues about your true feelings. The conclusion she eventually reaches, whether true or not, becomes the truth she carries, the reason why you disappeared, the flaw she repeatedly makes. This endless analysis leaves deep emotional scars, making her afraid to communicate genuinely in the future, always monitoring every word, always afraid of making the same mistake again. Third attitude, she watches who you follow or stopped following. She began noticing every small move you make on social media. Every follow and every unfollow becomes an event worthy of deep investigation and psychological analysis. When you stop talking to her, she naturally starts to monitor your profile, tracking your every action, every pattern, every minimal change that might indicate what you're doing, and, more importantly, if you're thinking about her or about someone else. She notices if you stopped following someone, if you started following someone new, if your posts changed in tone or frequency. Each new follow could represent a threat. Someone who might be taking your place, someone who might be offering her what you offered, attention, affection, genuine interest. If you followed someone of the opposite sex, her mind immediately starts working, creating narratives about who this person is, if you know them personally, if there's chemistry between you. She opens that person's profile, searches for common posts, checks if you interact with their posts, if you leave comments, if you viewed their stories. This meticulous investigation becomes a consuming obsession that pulls her away from everything else important in her life. The dynamic reverses when she realizes that you might have unfollowed her, and this event is devastating for her. If you removed her from your followers, this means something specific in your heart, that she no longer deserved to be there, that you don't want to see her in your feed anymore, that you're trying to erase her from your life in an active and deliberate way. This gesture, though small and easily reversible, becomes in her mind a monumental rejection, proof that you really stepped away, that you're putting distance on purpose. She remains trapped in this uncertainty, constantly monitoring your profile to confirm whether you really unfollowed her or if it was a mistake, a glitch in the app, something temporary. She opens your profile multiple times a day, each time hoping she was wrong, but each confirmation that she really isn't on your followers list anymore is like a small blow to her chest. This digital surveillance becomes a way of maintaining a connection with you, even if it's a unilateral and obsessive connection, even if it's just watching from afar how you live your life without her. These obsessive observations of social media create a parallel world in her mind, a world where every action of yours is amplified and reinterpreted in 100 different ways. She creates connections that might not exist, sees patterns where there's only chance, finds meaning in gestures that might be completely innocent. The way you interact on social media becomes the main source of information about your feelings, about what you're thinking, about whether you still think about her. This obsessive search for signs and clues keeps her trapped in a state of constant anxiety, always waiting for that follow that might represent a reconciliation, always afraid of discovering that you're living happily without her. Social media, which should be a space for fun and connection, becomes a minefield of anxiety, insecurity, and obsession. She finds herself forced to deal with the ghost of your digital life, with the illusion of closeness that social media offers, while in reality, you're completely absent from her life. Fourth attitude. She might post phrases about detachment. She starts posting phrases about detachment, about letting go, about people who don't deserve her energy, about how important it is to love yourself first. These posts appear in her feed almost like desperate whispers, coded messages that you should understand, that you should pick up on. She's not really talking about universal detachment. She's talking about you, about the situation between you two, about the pain she feels but can't express directly. These beautiful and poetic phrases about letting go are her way of dealing with rejection, of creating a narrative where she's the strong one, where she's the one above it all, where she's the one healing and evolving. By posting these detachment messages, she's not just trying to convince her followers that she's fine, she's mainly trying to convince herself, creating a fictional version of herself that can handle your absence with grace and maturity. These posts are emotional traps she sets for herself, hoping that you'll see them and understand that she's letting you go, that she's above all this, that she doesn't need you anymore. Each phrase posted is carefully selected and is accompanied by reflection on what impact it will have on you. She chooses beautiful images, makes the aesthetics of the post perfect, writes the caption with the secret intention of hitting you, of making you feel something, of making you notice that she's growing and evolving even without you. These posts about detachment are also a way for her to demonstrate to the rest of the world, and mainly to you, that she's not weak, that she's not broken, that she can move forward. But behind this facade of strength and acceptance, she's screaming internally, begging you to come back, asking you to see her being strong, hoping that you understand that she deserved more. The detachment she preaches in her posts is often the opposite of what she really feels deep in her heart, where she remains stuck, where you still hold a place of honor. These phrases become a protective shield, a way to deal with pain without admitting that it still hurts, without admitting that she still cares deeply about you and what you think of her. Over time, these posts about detachment accumulate in her feed, creating a pattern that any observant person can notice. She begins to seem like a detachment activist, an expert in letting people go, a wise woman who understands that some connections aren't meant to last. But the truth behind these curtains is that each post represents an attempt to get over you, a daily struggle against the urge to send you a message, to call you, to apologize for things you might not have even done wrong. These beautiful phrases become her mantra, her way of praying, her healing ritual that might never fully complete. The posts about detachment and personal growth are her way of narrating the story in a way that gives her control, that gives her power, that puts her in a position of strength, in a scenario where she feels completely defeated and vulnerable. And even if she partially believes these messages she posts, even if she's really trying to evolve and grow, the pain of your absence continues to pulse underneath, invisible to anyone who doesn't know where to look. Fifth attitude. Her ego is activated. Her ego awakens like a beast that was awakened from a deep sleep, and suddenly everything becomes personal in a way that perhaps it wasn't before. When you stop talking to her, her ego can't accept this silent rejection, this form of abandonment without explanation, this choice of yours to simply disappear from her life. Her ego starts to question how someone could choose not to speak to her, how someone could step away, how someone could leave her behind as if she didn't matter. She starts asking herself if maybe you found someone better, someone more beautiful, smarter, more fun, more suitable for you than her. Her wounded ego makes her believe that perhaps she's not enough, not worthy of your continued attention, not special enough to keep you interested. But at the same time, that same wounded ego also makes her believe that perhaps you're making a mistake by stepping away, that perhaps you'll eventually realize that she was better than anyone else, that she was exactly what you needed. This duality creates an internal emotional chaos where she oscillates between feeling insignificant and feeling like the best thing that could have happened to you. This activated ego starts to manifest in increasingly destructive ways, feeding thoughts that hurt her. She starts to think that perhaps you don't have enough value to appreciate her quality, that perhaps you're too immature to deal with someone like her. The ego makes her create stories where she's the wronged victim, the woman who did everything right but was discarded by someone who didn't deserve her presence. She mentally reviews all the moments when she was good to you, all the gestures, all the attention, all the affection she offered, and feels anger at having wasted it all on someone who didn't appreciate her properly. Her wounded ego drives her to seek validation from other sources, to seek attention from other people, to prove that she's still desirable, still valuable, still worthy of admiration. She might start flirting with others, posting photos of herself at specific angles, putting herself in situations where you can see her and realize what you're losing. Her ego works like a defense mechanism, trying to protect her from the real pain of your absence by transforming rejection into fuel for anger, for resentment, for the will to prove to him that he didn't make the right choice. Eventually, this activated ego can become a force that's both destructive and intoxicating in her life. On one hand, it motivates her to improve herself, to become a stronger and more resilient version, to invest in herself and in her own goals. On the other hand, it keeps her trapped in a state of resentment and imaginary competition with you, where she continues trying to prove her worth, constantly seeking validation that she was the right choice, that she was the best. Her ego can't rest while you don't recognize what you lost, what you let go, what you could have had. This wounded ego can take years to fully heal, because every time you're mentioned or pop up in her life, that wound opens again. Her ego remains vigilant, always ready to remind her that you rejected her, always ready to lift her up when she feels too small, always ready to push her towards personal revenge that will never be as sweet as she imagines it would be. Sixth attitude. She likes something old of yours to get your attention. She goes back to that post you made weeks ago, maybe even months ago, and suddenly likes it as if it were the most important thing in the world. This gesture is deliberate and carefully calculated. She's not just liking an old post by chance or because she rediscovered it. She's sending a coded message, a signal that she's still here, that she still exists in your world. that she didn't disappear the way you tried to make her disappear. A like on an old post is a way to knock on the door of your digital life, a way to say, "Hey, I'm still here, do you remember me?" without having to say anything verbally, without having to expose the pain and vulnerability of trying to communicate directly. She specifically chooses posts where she appears, or posts about subjects you know are important to her, or posts that mark moments when you two were still close. Each like is accompanied by hope, the hope that you'll notice, that you'll see her name appearing again in your notifications, that this might be the catalyst for you to start talking to her again. This act of liking old posts becomes an obsession, a way for her to maintain contact without direct contact, a way to leave a digital footprint of her presence. She can spend hours scrolling through your profile, looking for exactly the right post to like. It has to be relevant enough to catch your attention, but can't be so obvious as to seem desperate. She analyzes every post you've made, thinks about the context, about the time it was posted, about whether you were thinking about her when you wrote that. Each like is placed with precision, like a chess move in a game where she's trying to win back your heart. She waits for a reaction, for a follow back, for any kind of acknowledgement that indicates you noticed her presence again. When you don't react, she might try again with another post, with another approach, with another hope that this time it'll work. This time you'll understand that she's trying to reconnect with you through the only door still open between you. Over time, this practice of liking old posts becomes a melancholic ritual, a way for her to keep alive a connection that's fundamentally dead. She relives the moments you shared through these posts, remembering times when you two were close, when she mattered to you, when her presence in your life was something certain and stable. Each like is a small sigh, a small hope that maybe things could go back to the way they were. But the reality is that these likes rarely result in anything real, and she keeps liking, keeps hoping, keeps living in a suspended state where she allows herself to believe that this small digital action can change everything. The pattern of liking old posts also creates a digital signature of her obsession. Any observant person can notice that she keeps appearing in your notifications, always liking your old posts, always appearing when you least expect it. This might embarrass her if you or someone else notices the pattern, but at the same time, this exposure is also part of the reason why she keeps doing it, because at least this way you know she still thinks about you, that you still matter to her, that she didn't just give up and move on. Seventh attitude, she writes and deletes messages. She opens the conversation with you dozens of times a day, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to write that perfect message that might be able to reconnect you two. She starts typing, sometimes just a word, sometimes entire paragraphs of confession, of apologies, of explanations, of everything she wished she'd said but couldn't find the right words for. The message is written with deliberate care, each word chosen to cause maximum emotional impact, each sentence structured to make him understand exactly how she feels, how much his absence hurts, how much she misses him. But then she stops, rereads the message, and fear paralyzes her. Fear of seeming desperate, fear of revealing too much, fear that this message could push him even further away. She deletes everything, returns to rest, to that silence that haunts her, to that uncertainty about whether he still thinks of her the way she thinks of him. This cycle of writing and deleting repeats countless times, several times a day, at different times, in different emotional states. The messages she writes and deletes reflect the different emotional states she goes through in a single day. In the morning, when she awakens with renewed hope, she might write something light and casual, pretending everything is fine, trying to rebuild a connection through levity and good humor. During the day, when anxiety grows and reality hits her, she might write something more vulnerable, something that reveals the true pain she's feeling. At night, when she's alone with her thoughts and the silence is loudest, she might write something desperate, asking you to come back, confessing that she still cares, admitting that she can't move forward without you. Each variation of message represents a different facet of herself, a different attempt to reach you, a different hope that this time will be the right message. But in the end, they're all deleted, all stored in the vast archive of unspoken words, of confessions that will never reach you, of feelings that remain locked inside her because she can't find the courage to let them out. This practice of writing and deleting becomes a psychological torture that she imposes on herself, a way to keep hope alive while simultaneously denying it. Each deleted message is a small death, a small defeat, a small acknowledgement that maybe you really have gone, and no perfect message will bring you back. She finds herself trapped between the urge to try to reconnect and the paralyzing fear of being rejected again, of having her feelings ignored, of being completely invisible to you. This ambivalence keeps her in a constant state of indecision, writing and deleting, hoping and doubting, believing and disbelieving in turns. Over time, the deleted messages pile up in her memory and in her heart, each one a reminder of a moment when she was almost brave enough to tell the truth, but pulled back at the last second. These unspoken words become more powerful than any spoken words could be, carrying all the weight of what could have been, of what should have been, of what maybe never will be. The open conversation on her phone becomes a monument to her repressed feelings, a space where she can express the truth without fear, even if that truth never reaches you. If this video made sense to you, show your support, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and write gratitude in the comments. This small action helps the algorithm bring this message to more men who need to wake up and reclaim their inner strength. Every interaction of yours fuels this movement. Thank you for following along. Stay with us because every day we share ideas and guidance to help you strengthen your mind, rebuild your self-esteem, and take control of your own story. A hug, and see you in the next video.